Okay, that's both of us.
And we're live.
What are you doing leaning out of the camera there? Like casual lean?
Just leaning back. I've just spent so many days at home now that I'm just like lost. just in a complete state of relaxation constantly.
They've added to Be Live, the service that we use, they've added this. Can you see this? There's a
Oh my God.
quarantine.
Day one of quarantine. So what are we now? So in the UK, I think we've officially done 3 weeks. I think that's the case.
There we go. 21 days.
21 days in quarantine. Right, let's keep that up. That's quite cool.
It's ridiculous. There's also a little thermometer thing, but I don't know if that's meant to be our temperature, which seems like a really weird widget to have.
I can promise you all listening, my temperature is not 36.6 degrees centigrade. What is body temperature again? I forgot. What is normal body temperature?
Pretty bad.
God, I expected just an answer to come straight up, and it doesn't.
I think it's about that. Anyway,
adults 37. Okay, I can promise you that is my temperature because it says 37 degrees. So that's I like that. It's cool.
Bizarrely, these are the only 2 widgets that have been added. Like extremely corona focused. Of all the features they could add to the thing, this is what they've been working.
This is what they've been working on.
Sure.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have some other features, please. Okay, so we're on the BBO show. We're in week 2, episode 5, and Kyle, what are we going to cover today? Last week, just go check out what we did last week. This is a brand new week, so we will refer slightly to it, but let's get focused on a brand new week now. So what we're going to cover today?
Sure. So this is going to be an interesting week. Last week we talked about if you have an existing business, how you go about bringing it online and generating income now that we're in a lockdown, now that we are quarantined, we're at home. This week we're going to be talking more generally to people who might not necessarily have a business already. They might have been a salaried worker and now they're at home and they're either working from home and have extra time, or they've been furloughed and they have a lot of extra time, or for whatever reason they're not working and they're just kind of they have time and maybe not as much direction as they'd like at the moment. So we thought it'd be useful this week to focus on these people, and I know there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, and it could also be somebody who's now working from home and there's not as much work to do. So maybe you spend the first 4 hours of the day working and then you're just twiddling your thumbs like, okay, what we doing?
Yep.
Is twiddling your thumbs. What we doing right now? And you want to be productive. You know, you're bored of Netflix, Amazon Prime, games, whatever you're doing right now, and that's bored you to death. Whereas now you're saying, okay, I want to be productive. I want to try do something else. I'm just over this 1 week, 2 week relaxation period. What can I do?
And I want to come out of this, having done something or with a new stream of income or new business or whatever it is. And I think that's exactly right. For the first couple of weeks, people are like, yeah, Netflix, I can catch up on all my TV. Yeah. And then after a week or two, like, oh, it's so boring.
I was the same. I watched Money Heist, 2 seasons of Money Heist, which is epic, one hell of a drama. And you've got to watch it in Spanish with subtitles, though. Don't watch it English dubbed, which is strange. I've seen some people on Instagram watching it English dubbed. That's strange. So the focus now is, so last week we spoke about a few techniques, but now we are saying, right, if you've got time, whatever the reason is that for that case, we want to help you focus on income generation online. But because typically, the scenario would be, look, imagine there was no lockdown, but something happened in the world and or you may lost your job or you've gone part-time, you would go get a side income. You would go get a side job. It could be a part-time job. It could be working for somebody who's got a business. There's lots of things you can do on the side, but that still requires you to leave your house and do something in a physical manner.
You can't get a job in the pub now or in a cafe. That's just gone.
Correct. Hospitality, which is probably one of the most common ways to just jump in and out of a job, restaurant, bars. And you may be thinking, look, yeah, but I could be a delivery driver or I could help out in the NHS and the health system, etc. But the other risk there is the coronavirus going on. So you may not want to subject yourself to that risk. So I think what everybody's doing in that industry is amazing, but somebody who's not been in the industry, they're thinking, right, the safest thing for me to do is actually stay isolated, stay at home. But what can I now do with that additional time completely online? So I think, Carl, you've put together a cracking list of things we're going to focus on this week, which only require you to be online, a Wi-Fi connection, and a laptop. Is that correct?
Yep, so I've put together a list of, I think it's about 100 different ideas or 100 different services you can use, places where you can sell your skills, you can sell your time, or you can sell stuff that's in your house to start generating an extra income. Some of them, and the ones we're going to be discussing tomorrow, require no special skills at all. Anyone can do them as long as you've got a computer and the internet. And then we're going to be moving more into more professional, skill-focused additional incomes, and then capping the week out with creative focused as well. So there's going to be a range of different things because everyone's going to have different requirements and different skill levels and skill mixes.
Yeah. So I guess what we're not doing this week, which is where our passion is and what we love to do, is we're not talking about, certainly not at the start of the week, building out a complete online business. So remember last week you spoke about building a business, audience, tribe, offer, network under this model or system that we call the baton model. Now, that is a marketing and online business creating infrastructure, which you can plug an idea into. Whereas this week, we're taking a step back from that and just saying, right, we're in this strange scenario, which is lockdown. So we need to get as many ideas across to you as possible. So that list Carl's put together, I counted it, Carl, was 102 different ways. And Carl's ranked it in a specific way. Maybe you can expand on that. But I tell you what, before we get into this, can you bring that list up? It's 102 ways, and then maybe just quickly describe it, because that list is available for you guys in the description, that link.
I might need to lose one of us.
I think leave it like that. That's okay. Because it's the details not important. It's just the fact that there's a list here.
A long list. Let me expand it a bit. So what I've done is you've got on the left is the name of the service or the name of the place where you can generate income. Then I've categorized them by different types. I've categorized them by different locations. Some are UK only, some are US only. But the vast majority you can be done anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. And then I've got the kind of pay rate, how much they pay. Because some of these things are, like $1 for completing a survey, for example, whereas other ones are like recording an audiobook is one of the things I have on here, which would pay thousands of pounds or thousands of dollars. So we have different pricing structures. And then I've also categorized them by how much time and effort and skill is required to get into them. Generally, you'll find the easier ones, the ones that don't require specialized skills, will pay less. And that makes sense because it's a market economy. And then finally, I have a column called scalability. This is related to what Harms was just talking about. This week, we're not talking about building a complete business of your own. We're talking about just ways to generate an income, ways to get cash in the door now. So some of the things, actually quite a few of these on the list, if you started doing them today, you'd make your first pound or dollar today. They pay immediately. Whereas if you are setting up a business from scratch, that's very unlikely to happen. I mean, it could happen, but it's very unlikely.
But it's a business then, then you're looking at a business lead-in time, the preparation, the creation, the audience collection, and everything we spoke about in the baton model last week within your industry and infrastructure.
Yeah, so there's going to be a balance. We've got some things which are you can do right now, you'll be paid by the end of the day. Fantastic. They are not going to be scalable generally, though. They're not like building a business. So we have one and done, which is you do it now, you get paid. We have the next level up, which I've called time constrained, which is basically for each hour you put in, you'll get paid for that hour. But it's not really a scalable business model. Businesses, ideally, you want to be paid without you having to put your time in. That's a discussion for another day. And then it kind of steps up from there, so you can build up your own brand and your own profile online. That's the next level up. And then from there, potential businesses. So activities you can start now this week, which can then turn into a business moving forward. And then the final level are activities which could become an entirely passive income. Obviously, they're going to require a bit more time, a bit more effort, but then you could be generating money from this or income from this for years to come without additional effort. So they're all broken down into different categories, and we're going to be spending this week basically reviewing, surveying all of these different options for you to generate cash online now, starting with these really easy ones, which you could do now. You can get paid by PayPal by the end of the day, and then moving slowly into more complex, more time-consuming, more skill-based activities, which could become the foundation of the business. So there's something for everyone is what I'm saying.
Fantastic. Yeah. And that is available for you to view in the description below. So yeah, just click it. Also in the description below, you'll find our Slack chat. So Slack group. So you can join me and Kyle and a group of other people in there. And what that allows you to do is start to work through the list and maybe pick and mix, use this week as a pick and mix and say, let me try that. Does it, am I enjoying it as well as bringing some cash in? Is it something I can see myself doing for the lockdown period? And then come and ask me and Carl's questions on it. What's the pros and cons between these two items? And then we can help, discuss those kind of things for you. So the link to what we titled it, the big list of income generation during lockdown.
That's a working title that can change. The big list of income generation. During lockdown. Yeah. And on that point there, so it is a pick and mix, but we're going to be trying to give some commentary, because if you're just given 100 or 500 different options, that's too much. Most people just see that list and be like, okay, fine, I'm not bothered. So we're going to be trying to give some commentary, trying to give you some guidance, which ones are worthwhile, which ones are maybe not as worthwhile, again, depending on your situation. And if there are certain questions or certain queries that people are having, we can, or Harms and I, we will go and find experts in particular niches, in particular business practices, and try and get them on the show so we can chat to them about the activity in more detail. That'll be moving forward over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, great. And think about this week as, look, you've got this big list of things, and as we go through the list week, we're going to categorize them. So Carl did mention this at the start. So we're going to first start with Tuesday, which is going to be like non-specific, general categories where it doesn't really fit into a bucket. So for example, selling stuff, things that you exchange an hour for income, surveys, testing. And then Wednesday on our notes, we're going to be basing it on the fact that if you speak English, there's some language-based things that you can do to help the online world.
Which we're assuming, because you're watching this, that's why we're sticking with English. This could be the same for if you speak French or Spanish or Chinese or whatever you speak. There will be similar services. We're going to be focusing on English speaking because you're watching this and you're listening to us in English.
Yeah, and we can speak English, so that's a bonus, right? So Thursday is based on your specific skill, so you can actually say, right, this is what I have a skill set at, and we can expand on how you can identify that, and then ultimately selling yourself as a professional and selling your professional skills into the online world. That's Thursday. Friday, we're going to be basing it on specific skills, especially around the creative world, design, creative, artistic skills. So Thursday is professional, and then Friday will be creative. So if you're creative, stay tuned with us, because Friday we're going to be talking about those kind of skills specifically. So that's everything that's going to be coming up. But today we wanted to, just give us a broad understanding of online business. And I thought the best way to do that, and when me and Carl were prepping our notes and stuff for this episode, is very much discuss, firstly, why online business has a bad reputation. Why do people think online business and think, oh no, that's not for me, or that's got a bad rep, or that leaves a bit of feeling of uncomfortableness when the conversation around online business occurs. And even so much to say that, look, hey, I have an online business, and people look at you a bit strange. Like, is that even a thing? Is that even a proper profession or a workspace?
That's not real.
That's not real. Okay, you're just one of those people, online business or whatever, and they just don't understand it. So it can have a bad rep for a few different reasons. One is the fact that look, there's just a lack of understanding here. So Carl, why don't you kick off with why do you think we've got three or four key points, but we can just talk around those points. So why do you think online business got a bad rep? Because you've been doing this for a hell of a long time.
Sure. So following on from what you're just saying, there's a lot of get rich quick schemes. There's a lot of get rich quick mentality in the online business world. So a lot of the advertising you see, a lot of the times online business is talked about. It will often be, here I am in my garage with my Lamborghinis, or here I am in my $4 million home with my, beautiful wife. I did all this online. I made whatever it is. I did drop shipping, or I built an empire using Kindle books, or I sell courses, or I do social media marketing, whatever it is. It tends to be somebody saying online business is the fix all, it will cure everything, and you will be rich beyond your wildest dreams in, next week. Yeah, there's a lot of BS around online marketing. And unfortunately, online marketing, the people who are good at online marketing are very good at selling themselves, they're very good at selling that dream. So they're the ones making the money, the people selling that dream. However, that means that a lot of people now associate online business with these kind of get rich quick schemes, which is unfair, because there's a much wider diversity of ways to generate an income online.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the big misconception is that online business is not a business. It doesn't have the same characteristics as a business. It doesn't have the same need of that kind of business understanding when creating online business. And I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions, because it is sold in a way that, and look, that industry is what's the best way to describe it in terms of its categories? It's info entrepreneurs, info education, and that's okay. Look, that's great, because actually subscribing to a course or whatever it is great, because ultimately it's going to give you that level of knowledge to go and start in that specific field. But I think what the challenge is that when there's a scenario like this, there's almost a feeling of a gold rush, or selling the shovels in order to go cash in on a specific thing that is happening. But that problem with that is there is a focus on very, very niche items, like Carl says, like setting up a book publishing Kindle e-store, setting up an e-commerce shop overnight, doing Amazon selling, selling things on eBay, so flipping on eBay. There's even more probably stuff that used to work a long time ago, but people are still buying into them. Things like domain flipping. People very much focus on, hey, become an affiliate marketing superstar overnight. And all of these things are very, very niche, but they fundamentally miss the fact that online business is a business. Would you agree with that, Carl?
So all of these things you've just mentioned, so we've got drop shipping, we've got Fulfilled by Amazon, we have affiliate marketing, we have, what's the other one you just said? Shopify stores, like linking AliExpress to a Shopify store. There's a lot of, all of these are techniques. They're not business.
The best way,
It's a technique. All of these are techniques which can work. So yes, you can make a lot of money publishing Kindle ebooks. The books have to be good though. And that's what's forgotten. Yes, you can make money drop shipping. So drop shipping is, I set up an online store, I sell products through the online store, and it goes straight from the manufacturer straight to the customer. So I don't even see the item. That's what drop shipping is.
So you don't need a distribution mechanism. The distribution is handled for you.
It's done for you. Drop shipping as an idea, selling something which is then delivered directly from the manufacturer to the customer, that's fine. The problem is that still needs a business underlying it. You need to be sourcing a product that people actually want, that's high quality, and then being able to market that. All of these, Fulfilled by Amazon, drop shipping, Kindle publishing, etc., all fine as techniques. They are not businesses in and of themselves. So first you need to start with the business part of online business, which most of these courses, most of the people you see on Instagram promising you riches, they forget about this part, or they don't tell you about this part. You need a business first, and then you apply these different techniques, these different tools.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I think one of the challenges is that when somebody approaches these companies or these kind of techniques, that's the best way to describe it. Because look, it's nothing against the people selling it in marketing. Look, they've got a business, they've got to generate their own revenue, and they sell this technique. But the challenge is that sometimes when you're wanting to build anything or create anything of value, it's so much better. And I think me and Carl have learned this over the years the hard way. It's so much better to do something you're passionate about, something that you have a skill set for, something that you enjoy, and that there's a market for that item, rather than chase the dollar or the pound or the money at the back end of it. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is the technique promises you the get rich, the fact that you're going to make 3, 4, 5, 6,000 pound a month, or some people even advertise 20, 30,000 pound a month selling via Amazon. Great, that's okay. But are we going to enjoy doing that process? Because that kind of revenue generation is great. It probably is doable, but for a small percentage of people who already fundamentally understand business as a fundamental principle and online business as a fundamental principle, so much so that they have the ability and the skill set to advertise and market to you for their particular course. So they know what they're doing. They're very good at it, but they're making the assumption that you also know what you're doing in regards to this kind of business mechanism. Is that making sense, Carl? What I'm trying to say is that chasing the money or chasing something that you can finally share your skill set with online. That's what I'm trying to get the message across here.
I think a really simple example is a Teespring. Have you ever heard of Teespring?
No.
It's basically on-demand t-shirt printing. As a business model, makes perfect sense. There's Teespring, there's a whole bunch of different ones. So there are a lot of courses, a lot of people selling this business model, which is, you should custom design t-shirts and then you can sell them and make profit on each t-shirt. It's fine. The business model of Teespring, absolutely fine. The problem is you have to be a good designer first. You need to have t-shirt designs that people actually want to buy. And this was kind of forgotten conveniently by the people who were teaching about this. Yeah. So the market was flooded. This happened 5 years ago. So the market was flooded on Teespring with people who were just rushing in because they wanted to sell t-shirts and make, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a month. None of them were very good designers of t-shirts. That was the problem. So the market was flooded, it was oversaturated, people were making crappy t-shirts, nobody was selling anything. And the only people making money were those saying, hey, you should get on Teespring. And I'm sure Teespring probably made some money too. But that's a really nice, simple example. There are people who are good at designing t-shirts who will make a lot of money on Teespring. But that's because they have the skills to actually build a business there, rather than just using the technique of custom t-shirt printing.
Yeah, agree. Because the custom t-shirt printing is, as Carl says, is a technique. It's the way that you're going to generate your revenue. That's your idea as such. Your idea as such is.
But that's not enough. Yeah.
But that's not enough. For us, if you look at the baton model, the fact that you're going to print well-designed t-shirts will come right at the start in the business element. Then we will then put that through the process of actually selling those t-shirts online, creating an audience, getting a desire and a raving fan base around your kind of design. I think that's.
We make sure that your t-shirts are good first.
Yeah,
because a lot of people forget this part.
Yeah, and test that they can be sold, test that there's a market for that kind of interest that you're trying to sell to. So it's exciting, but that's why online business has got a bad rep. Okay, so that my light went off and on by itself. So this is interesting. I was hoping it didn't blow. So that's why we feel online business has a bad rep. But we didn't actually have this in the notes. But I think it's useful, Carl, for us to chat about what is online business very briefly, but also what's the advantages of it, and then we're going to give them. Then I think we can talk about 4 key areas to focus on.
Sure. I think you already touched on this when you said online businesses are a business. Like, yes, we have the word online stuck on the front, but essentially it's still a business. And a business is the creation of something of value, whether it's a product or service, that is then supplied to a market who are willing to pay you enough money for you to continue creating whatever that piece of value is. Without that unit of value, whether it's a book, whether it's your consultation service, whether it is a sofa that you've made, without that unit of value that is valued by the market, by the people who are going to buy it, you do not have a business. That's the same if you are offline or if you're online. Whether you're online or offline is kind of a moot point nowadays. It used to be a very distinct gap back in like the 2000s. You'd have online businesses that only sold online, and you'd have offline businesses, which were brick and mortar shops. The two now have merged, especially most brick and mortar stores have an online presence now, especially nowadays. Now we're in quarantine, you're seeing the businesses that did not have the ability to sell online, the ability to deliver online purchases, they are now screwed, or they have ceased to exist because now people cannot leave their homes. So increasingly online and offline have merged. We spend all our time on our telephones. Like, even if I'm going to a coffee shop which doesn't sell things online, how do I find my coffee shop? I use this. So when we do talk about online business, we are more and more talking about just business in general. We need to remember the fundamentals of business.
Yeah, and then I guess I mean, you summed that up fantastic. So I guess the advantages then is you know, if I was to think, right, what benefits has it given me over the time, which is, I think it's, for me personally, it was fundamental, a bit more control of my time. I wasn't the kind of personality who would like to go and commute to work, like spend an hour commuting, an hour coming back. So it was a case of building a mechanism so that I could wake up, walk to my office, because there's two approaches to this. One is, and I think this is where people get misunderstood, is one is building an online business where you can press play and it does things automatically, which a part of the business does. But then there's also a part of the business where, the creation is still required, the monitoring is still required. There's two sides to the business. So I think
it depends on how you design it. It's the same as an offline business too. You can have a business that is based in an office that has staff, etc. And you, as the business owner, you could have built it so that you are able to step back. That's just how you design it. Or you could have built it so you're needed every single day and you're working the longest, even though you're the business owner. Same thing, whether you're online or offline. There are certain benefits of online businesses though. They tend to have lower overheads because you are not renting a space, which means you're saving a lot of money, whether that's on the rent, the electricity, the utilities, etc., etc. That just costs money. Online businesses, you tend to, not always, but you tend to be able to get away with not having staff or being able to outsource your work and use freelancers around the world. So then you can take advantage of employment arbitrage. So you can hire someone in the Philippines or in India or Vietnam who is just as good at the job, or 80-90% as good as the job, but costs 10% of the price of a local worker. So that's employment arbitrage.
Yeah, because just to jump on that point as well, is because English, depending on what you're hiring them for, English is not the thing that you're paying them for. That's not the process. You're also not paying them for the creative thinking, the critical thinking. What we're paying for them for is a set of instructions or some technical abilities that are now universal. So this is like the online business language or the online world language, which is just technical. That's what we're paying them for. So they can be anywhere in the world.
Yeah, if I'm hiring someone to build a website or e-commerce facility, I'm not going to hire them in London because it's too expensive. And you can get those skills anywhere in the world. Connected to that is the fact that online businesses, unlike offline businesses, are global. They tend to be global. So the first one that I set up, the first automatic online business that I set up, most of its customers are in the US. The second largest was in Holland for some reason, and the UK was, I think, like 5th or 6th. It was
nice
down the list. And it doesn't matter, because once you've set up a store online, you can access anybody in the world, which is not the case if you build a coffee shop here in London, for
Exactly. Which coffee shops are they're facing that challenge at the moment. Some of them are adapting, but not for revenue, just for brand recognition at the moment, which is kind of stuff we spoke about last week.
Yeah,
So,
for
Carl, okay.
survival. Yeah.
So what I like is, right, you've actually dived into the next part, which is almost the final part of today's show, which is there's 4 key areas. If you was to write down, there's 4 key areas to focus and create a business around. These are 4 advantages, but they're also, if you reverse engineer those advantages, the focus on building that online business. And I'd say if you can get as many of these 4, it could be 1, it could be 2 of these, but the winning formula is, look, if I can get all 4 in place for my online business, then this is a winning formula. So I think you started to touch upon it, but let's talk about it in terms of, yes, there are 4 advantages, but also there are 4 focus areas. So those start with number 1, which Carla's sort of touched upon, but let me just define it, which is the need to be flexible and diverse. So if you think about this in regards to, typically we are all dependent on one income source, which is a salary. It could be an income source from your own particular business. So think about diversification within your business. Let's assume that your business only sells offline and it is a coffee shop. So what could an online or offline coffee shop do online in order to hedge their income or diversify their income? So that's, I mean, if I was just thinking top of my head, maybe they could be selling directly to customers their coffee beans, their ground coffee beans as a service, which they can sell via their e-shop or their e-commerce store. So that's one way to think about diversification, because if they don't, the scenario occurs where coronavirus hits or something like this, or you have 3 or 4 staff go sick overnight, whatever that is, and it could be outside of coronavirus, or something happens on that particular high street. They close a train station, so the foot traffic now diverts to another train station, and no longer do you get that foot traffic for your coffee shop. So all of these things are real life scenarios, but there's no diversification of income. That's no different to us relying on one salary, and we have no other mechanism. So try to think of online business as having a diversified income stream or income generation form entering your life. That's the way I'd think about it. Anything else you want to add for that first point, and then you can dive into the second one?
Yeah, so that's mainly for existing businesses. If they have a stream of income, online allows you to add another stream of income, which can be related to your core business, but it's coming from online. So therefore, as Harm says, if something goes wrong with the offline for whatever reason, you have this continuing stream of revenue. The other way to think about diversification is the fact that with online businesses in particular, if they are structured correctly, you can have multiple online businesses. Whereas if you set up a coffee shop or a chain of coffee shops, that's probably going to be all you're doing. Again, depends on how you structure it, but because you have locations, because you have staffing, because you can hire managers, etc. But it's always going to be there's a lot more moving pieces. Whereas once you've learned to set up an online business and you've successfully done it, doing that again and again and again and making them automatic is relatively simple compared to doing it with physical business.
Yeah, because
so that's another way to diversify. Yeah. So I just mentioned this one. So it teaches people how to read and write Chinese. I've made some courses about this. I don't touch that, and I'm not running any ads or anything like that, and that just trickles in money. Not much, because I'm not really pushing it at the moment, but I'm going to guess £700 to £1,000 a month or so, based on something that I built maybe 5 years ago, and I do not touch. And if I want to kind of get a chunk of money, I can run a sale, do some email marketing and get a chunk of cash in. Having a few of those businesses just kind of running in the background is really good for diversification, because if any one of them suddenly stops working, it's not the end of the world if you have 5 or 6 of them. Whereas if you have one source of income, it's tricky. You're in trouble.
Yeah, because what we don't know now, and I think the time that we're living through right now, which is just crazy, is yes, we can do a classic SWOT analysis. What are the threats against this particular income source? But how
Yeah,
do you?
I wonder.
Exactly. So it's really a case of, it's very difficult to know now in this strange time what the true threat is going to be. Yes, we can. Yes, it's good to guesstimate. And yes, it's good to do some research to identify what that is. But what industries? Let's look at what industries are, as a research project, have survived right now, are doing quite well right now. I think me and Carl spoke about. Actually, we've run a special webinar which is going on at the moment, that Netflix increased their revenue by about 15 million US dollars per month.
I think that was just in
Incredible.
the UK, actually.
Just in the UK. So
That's Netflix UK.
Netflix UK. So some businesses benefit during this time, whereas some industries have completely lost their income. So I think that's where we want you to be thinking about an online business as an advantage, but also a focus area. How can I have a diversified range of online revenue streams?
I'm going to pull this up. You might not be able to see it properly, but I'll drop the link below as well. This is on AppSumo, blog.appsumo. If you Google 10 inspiring coronavirus business pivots, this came out a week ago. And it's just a list of businesses that managed to pivot very quickly or are doing quite well during this time. So this one, Mobile Escape, they do escape room programming for schools. So they do escape room documents, basically, that you can print out and do at home. So they're doing really well all of a sudden because people are stuck at home, and these guys have started, they've gone from just doing schools, going wider to selling them. Keep Your City Smiling is boxes to help local businesses, etc. Masks. There's a whole list of things here which are doing really well. Oh yeah, I love this one. This is an 84-year-old Italian grandma. Lots of people, I mean, it's quite dark, but lots of people were worried about in Italy because the mortality rate was so high. There were all these nonnas, all these grandmas who might be passing away without passing on their pasta recipes.
Oh wow!
And this became a real concern. And there was one of this. This is Narina. Yeah, Narina and her granddaughter Chiara are doing like pasta making classes online to make sure that Narina's like pasta dishes are being passed down and stuff like that. So there's some very interesting things going on like this. So this is a list, and more there are these hopeful stories coming out of the current situation as well.
Yeah, and no doubt there'll be some completely new ideas, or businesses that weren't necessarily timed for a time like this, because a lot of business success is down to the timing element of it. When is it launched? Is it launched into a market that is ready for it? Take virtual reality, for example. Timed maybe not quite right at the moment. Whereas there'll be VR, if you look at VR now, if there was a lead-in time for what's happening right now, VR probably is really well placed as a product for what's happening right now. I guess it just wasn't an adoption period that was happening. So new ideas are also formed. So that's number one. Number one is the need to focus on flexibility and diversification. And that's a great example, a blog of 10 ideas you can get started with straight away, just to start to understand how other businesses are operating and good case studies. So that's number one. Number two, Carl, what's number two on the list?
Sure, this is probably the main benefit of an online business compared to an offline business. We talked about how they're very similar, but the main thing with an online business is that your overheads, your costs of running the business on a day-to-day basis are very low. Again, you do not have to rent a building. You do not necessarily have to have staff. Your main kind of upfront cost is going to be a laptop and your internet connection. And then from there, like hosting a website, we're talking about, I don't know, 50 quid a year or something like that. We're talking about very low costs compared to having a physical location. And this gives us a massive amount of flexibility, which is what we just talked about. If I'm paying £2,000 a month to rent a location, I need to be making at least £2,000 a month to be covering that straight out the door. If I'm not making £2,000 in revenue, I cannot cover my rent. and my business is going to be at a loss very quickly. With an online business, you don't have those overhead issues. So even if your sales get completely trounced because of whatever's going on, you're not hemorrhaging money, you're not losing money because you're not renting a space, and you're not spending a lot of money just keeping the doors open.
Yeah, so it becomes a thing of who can survive the longest, and an online business will out survive a company who's got to pay rent, staff, bills, certain taxes, um, certain rates depending on where they're based in the world. So that is a challenge. Warehouse, storage costs, all of these things add up, and for a small to medium sized business, this can be serious money. There's people renting office spaces who may not even get a discount, and these office spaces will cost 5, 10, 15, 20,000 pound a month depending on what the location is. So it's hard for us, even online business owners, to think if we was brought up in the world of online business, it can sometimes be absurd to us that somebody is paying 20, 30,000 pound a month for an online office space, or sorry, an offline office space. I think it's crazy, considering you can have maybe different results, but you can certainly have a business that can survive for a long, long time. Because all we have to cut, say for example, Kyle, we looked at our online business, we may just have to cut, if we lost all of our income, some subscription services. Right? Let's cut some subscription services. Maybe some expensive ones that cost 200, 300 pound a month. Maybe trim down on advertising costs, but again, that's a choice that we spend money on.
I mean, we would just cut them and then restart them in a few months' time. Whereas if you are locked into a lease, if you've got a 2-year, 3-year commercial lease, that's not going to be possible. We would just go on a website, click a few buttons, and we've cancelled that subscription. We would rejoin in a few months' time. And most online services are like that. So for online businesses in general, the overheads are much, much, much lower.
Yeah, there's no difficult conversations with another human being explaining why you can't pay your rent, why you can't pay certain staff members, all of that stuff that goes into a business. Now, we're not saying we're just talking really very much around the advantage of online business plus the focus on what it should be. So if you've got an online business and number one, it's diverse, it's flexible, and now number two, you've got low overheads. Now, these are two good solid components for you to think about. Okay, if I got both of those, I'm already at an advantage in building my online business, depending on where I'm focusing. So number three,
a really good way to think about this now. If you are in the middle of this crisis now, as we all are, so we're all in quarantine, we're all in isolation. Right now, would you go and set up an offline business? Like, as a thought experiment, that would be absolutely crazy, raising money to go out and set up an offline business. Even if everything opens up right now and people start shopping, they start going out again, the idea of taking out a loan of £100,000 or a couple of £100,000 to go and set up a physical location right now, after what we've just seen in the last month and what we're going to see over the next few months, just seems crazy, absolutely crazy to me personally. I mean, maybe some people are very excited to go and start new coffee shops after this, but I would not be that enthusiastic.
Exactly. So try to get bank lending on that now as well. So that's also going to be a challenging factor. So no doubt we're going to see some government encouragement or stimulus for the relaunch of offline companies. There's no doubt, because
the relaunch of the economy.
Relaunch of the economy, and offline is a large part of that. So if you look at some industries, that we have no choice, but we're not talking about all industries here. We're talking about yourself and adding another income stream to your life. So that's really the focus here.
Right now, online makes a lot of sense.
A lot of sense, and I think going forward, it makes a lot of sense. So right now, if you're studying this, or you're following us along and saying, okay, this sounds like a good idea, let me keep listening to what Harms and Kyle are saying and start to discover what that online business is for me. That's great as well. So it could be, as you go forward, when things recover, it's like, now I need to focus on getting an online business. So do consider these 4 things when building that. So number 3 is an over-reliance that businesses have on a need for face-to-face interaction. And we're seeing that if you look at last week's examples, yoga classes, coaches, educators, personal trainers, the entire business model is built on a face-to-face interaction. That's where the over-reliance comes in. Now, we're not saying eradicate or completely remove face-to-face as we get through this time. But what we're saying is do not rely on this 100%. Have another mechanism within your business if it exists already, or if you were thinking about creating a business, think about how can you attach an online mechanism where there's not 100% reliance on face-to-face, because some businesses are like that. They just do not operate without face-to-face interaction, or they have an option, or in the past they could have had an option to have an online system. They just chose not to. They said, no, we'll be fine. Under what circumstance are we never going to meet face to face? And now we are in one.
I think even ignoring things like Corona, face to face means an hour of your time. Every time you go meet somebody, or every time you do a physical interaction, it's always going to take that same amount of time, and you can only see that person or that small group of people.
Yeah.
So it is inherently or mathematically less scalable than being able to do these things online, where, I mean, we talked about this last week, you could, instead of providing a yoga class to 10 people every single Wednesday afternoon, you could provide that yoga class to 100 people. You could provide it to 500 people. Like Joe Wicks right now, have you seen this? He's doing
PE classes.
Yes, for kids.
For kids,
so if
every morning or something.
Joe Wicks was going around the country and doing PE classes in schools, he'd be able to do 30, 50 kids at a time or whatever it is. Because of his online reach, because he's built this platform, he is now doing PE classes with the nation's youth in the UK. And so my girlfriend was just talking to her sister the other day, and they're in Belgium. They're also watching Joe Wicks every morning at 9 a.m. Joe Wicks is doing this almost, well, I don't know, it's maybe even a global PE class. You can't get that kind of scalability if you are relying on face-to-face interactions. Doesn't mean you don't do face. It just means that face-to-face becomes even more special. It becomes something that you charge a lot more for in the future, or it's meetings only for extremely strategic and important topics. And the rest of the time, you focus on scalability, getting to a lot of people, and you can do that online a lot easier.
Absolutely. And what I love is what I'm seeing at the moment online and in terms of discussion forums and certain articles is now is literally the opportunity for them to change the education system for the better. Change. It's almost a prehistoric system that's currently operating. I don't want to get into it, but there is now an opportunity that in the discussion to rework the education system, because and this is not discrediting teachers, but you've got a brand, somebody who's built a skill set and he's sharing it online, and he can in a morning can reach millions of kids. Are you
talking about Joe Wicks? Yeah,
Joe Wicks,
the nation's PE teacher,
the nation's one and only PE teacher.
Interesting,
But I think that's almost the way. I mean, there's lots of discussions on which way the education system should evolve. But there is now an opportunity to build an online business in order to support the current education infrastructure in place. I guess that's the message I was trying to get across. Joe Wicks won't be the only person, because for every person who likes Joe Wicks, there'll be somebody who maybe doesn't like his technique or doesn't agree with his PE philosophy or whatever's going on at the moment. I haven't tuned into his show yet.
I think the world of work in general is also going to change, because there have been so many businesses who've been saying, oh no, you can't do remote working, you need to be here in the office. And now all the employees know, well, no, we survived for the last however many months it's going to be, and business get going. So I think flexible working in general is going to become more of a thing after this. And the reliance on face-to-face interaction will decrease, and it will be face-to-face will still happen, but only for the most important things.
Agree. And that's an exciting thing, because think about how much time is getting saved for everybody. It's an incredible amount of time. Think about meetings as well. Okay, now the final thing. So we discussed 3 things so far. which are essentially advantages of an online business, but also 3 things that you should integrate or allow to be the base of your online business in order for it to be a winning formula. So, Carl, you can lead us with the last one.
Sure. So the last one is, I would say this is more unique to online than offline. Online, we tend to use our personal brand. We tend to be more human than if we are focusing purely offline. So offline, you will call a company. You won't necessarily know who you are talking to in the company. Whereas online, because of the tools we have at our disposal now, video, social media, the ways we reach out to people online, it tends to be more person to person. So something like LinkedIn, which is the largest professional social network, it's not about companies doing business with companies. It's about people in companies connecting with other people. It's peer to peer, it's person to person. And I think online allows us to build this, don't particularly like the term, but it is personal brand. It is who we are. It allows us to put ourselves out there as an expert in our particular field and become known for what we do. Whereas previously we'd have to wait for more traditional media outlets like television and newspaper, or maybe a publishing house to validate, oh, you are important, your opinion's important.
Validate, give
Not
the platform.
really the case anymore, because we have the platform now, and the older publishing mediums like newspapers are slipping. They're not as important anymore. They're not the gatekeeper. They're not the people who get to decide who's important and who's worth listening to, because now we all have this platform, or multiple platforms, where we can get our voice heard. So I think online really opens up a lot of opportunities there.
Agree, and there's some extremely talented people who emerge online. You only have to search Instagram for 5 minutes to find some remarkable skill set out there, especially around the creative and artistic side, which we'll talk about on Friday.
Well, I think saw that grandma in Italy who's doing pasta classes. Like, how could that have happened without access to things like live video streaming? She would previously wait for a newspaper to kind of come to the village and discover her, or a publisher to say, I want to do your pasta recipes in the book. We now have the platforms, self-publishing platforms, to do this ourselves, which is extremely empowering if you're willing to grasp them and to build something with them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think I recently saw, which is a really polarizing newspaper, the Sun paper, the chief editor has come out and put on social media, can you please support the paper? It costs less than buying a coffee, cut 50 pence or whatever. So
he put that on social media, did he? He
put that on social media. Please support. And look, the Sun is polarizing. I'm not a fan of them, but there's certain cities in the UK, Liverpool, for example, which just banned the paper. So it's a case of, these. So there was a big thing in the past, and the Sun falsely reported on certain stuff, and also they're I don't want to get all, but they're quite known for just spinning stories in order to sell newspapers, which is what they do specifically. So it's a polarizing newspaper, but now look, you've got such a powerful medium within this. For example, the Sun paper is coming out and saying, "Hey guys, please buy our paper," which is a big wake up call for everybody to say, "Hang on a minute, has the tide turned? Has the tables turned?" And it's certainly a great time. I agree with Carl, just to put yourself out there and start to receive those opportunities that are available. Because you don't have to wait for anybody to put us on now. We just don't have to. There's no barrier to entry. There's no please can you put us in this paper, or begging to get on a newspaper article, or
please will you publish my book.
Also, there's a thing which doesn't really get discussed, which is when you are actually doing something for these mediums, your voice is also filtered, in the sense that you are censored, or you can't necessarily say certain things, which social media is also now potentially going that way in terms of censorship and not being able to say what you want to say. Whereas certain platforms, i.e. your own website, you can say what you want. You can do what you want. You can, within your online business.
Please use that power for good, though.
but
it
swings
both ways.
It swings both ways. So I mean, me and Carl are very adamant on this as well, which is, use the now platform to spread the good and the positivity and the amazing things, like the grandma and passing down those pasta recipes. That's an amazing example of using that power for good, for sure.
Or
Okay.
providing PE lessons, for example. These are good uses. But yes, these platforms can also be abused, and they are a lot. Don't be those people.
Yeah, don't be those people, and just spread that love across the world with these things, these skills that you have. And I think that's where our discussion is. Do you have a skill or a service that the online world needs? If yes, now's a great time to share it. I think that's where I was going with that. Please don't be doing the crazy stuff online. Okay, so
and then looping that back to what we're going to be talking over this week. By going out there and sharing your expertise, by coming from this place of giving value by your skills or your creativity or whatever it is, there are ways to generate an income online. And that's what the focus of the week is going to be, surveying these different methods.
Absolutely. So we spoke about what we're going to cover in the week. We mentioned at the start. So these are, okay, so what we've done today is very much spoken about number one, which is what we're doing this week. Number two, which is why does online business have a bad rep? Hopefully now you feel like, oh, actually, online business is a business and there's a lot to learn in this, but I'm seeing it now as a business rather than this unique technique, which is maybe the silver bullet, the magic pill, which is going to make me rich overnight. It's not necessarily going to be the case. Hopefully you get that now. And then we focused on what a online business is, which Carl mentioned is a business. Then finally is 4 advantages, but also if you reverse engineer those advantages, are 4 key things you should build your online business around. So that's what we spoke about today. And we've also shared with you in the comments below, let me find the name, the working title, which is the big list of income generation during lockdown. It's a massive list. There's 102 items on there of different, and these are techniques. So these are different techniques, areas in which you can generate revenue, and they're ranked in different ways, which Carl already discussed. So check that out. That's a gift for you guys. It's available for you, for those who've been watching the show. Also, I must remember, which I have not mentioned for 5 days straight, which is don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I've got to get used to saying that, otherwise I'm going to forget.
Or Facebook.
So we stream this live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram in the near future. Subscribe or follow the Facebook page so that you don't miss these lives. You get a notification. You can watch us live, or you can save it to watch later. So it's completely your choice. But 2 big things for today is access that list, start exploring those options, and then come talk to us about those options in the Slack group. Both links are below. That's it for today.
Yep. And very briefly, again, we are going to be covering the list. We're going to be covering in detail over the next few days, going through some of the items in the list, commenting on them, talking about which ones are suitable for which people. And roughly, the order of the week is going to be tomorrow. That's Tuesday. We're going to be talking about the non-skill specific ones. So these will tend to be done now really quickly, and you can start to generate some cash, get cash in hand immediately, whether that's cash to buy your groceries or cash to set up a business moving forward. So that's what we're going to be covering tomorrow. Quick, easy, and like immediate return. Not really businesses, but the foundation for building something larger. So that's tomorrow. On Wednesday, we are going to be focusing primarily on income generation, which uses the fact that you speak English. So that could be things like transcription, it could be audio recording, it could be helping to teach English, tutoring, writing skills, for example, copywriting, copy editing, and proofreading. We're going to be covering lots of different services where your ability to read and write English can be monetized again to start bringing a bit of cash in while you are locked down at home. On Thursday, we're going to be delving more into professional skills that you can sell online. So whether you are a business consultant, whether you are an accountant, whether you are a whiz at data entry, or you're a coder, whatever it is, we're going to be looking at places where you can sell those services, where you can start to generate income from skills that you already have, skills that maybe you've been using at work, but now you're going to be using them to directly make cash online. And then the week is going to wrap up on Friday by taking the other side of the coin. So we have the professional stuff, and then we're going to look at creative as well. So we didn't want to leave either of these groups out. On the creative side, we're going to be talking about art, craft, graphic design, music, illustration, all different ways you can use your creative talents in order to start to generate cash online as well. So we wanted to balance out the professional, creative, and make sure we catch everybody. And that's going to be the outline of the week.
And I think by Friday, somebody that we've paid for their creative work online, who's creating a logo for us, it may be ready by Friday. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
There we go.
So we'll have a logo
on Friday.
We may reveal it on that day to show you as an example. Somebody's made some money. We'll let you know how much we paid for it as well, just so you know what's potential, what potential is out there as well.
Sure, because we would be potential clients for that kind of thing. So we'll talk about how we found somebody who has those skills, paid that person, and received goods from them. We'll talk about it from our side, and we'll be doing this throughout the week as well.
Awesome. Okay, so remember, subscribe to YouTube or Facebook channel, join us in the Slack link, and also check out this humongous 102, maybe growing, big list of income generation things during lockdown. So start exploring that.
It'll be a lot more than 102 today. So
nice.
We'll keep doing it.
Awesome. Cool. Right. So we'll see you guys tomorrow.
That's us. Thanks, guys.